so thrilled to welcome you today. Thank you very much for coming along. Housing associations, really interesting. I regard them as just as much a part of social care as the business that Dudley is in, of helping people get up in the morning and be clean and that kind of stuff, be fed. Providing a roof over people's heads is an absolutely integral part of social care and making people feel safe and valued. So I'm going to hand straight on to you. Thank you very much indeed.
I wasn't untouchable. I lived in deep poverty. I cleared cockroach dung from evaporated milk tins so that I could put milk in my tea. I was called a servant at age 11. I was cleaning houses, catching fish and stealing to exist. My history was defined by abject poverty. I was a carer to my father and 2 disabled brothers from the age of 5. I was absolutely sent to Coventry with my family because of my personal circumstances. That was then. Now, I am Ingrid Tennessee, CEO of an award-winning charity and housing association. We have been voted Great Place to Work for the last 3 years. We have been an award-winning charity for all the things that we do for the people we care for. I'm a trustee at Cumberland Lodge. Who would have thought a little girl hiding in an oil drum when her mother called her to get firewood and to find edo leaves to cook would be sitting here today and going to meetings at Cumberland Lodge, where next door is Frogmore Cottage, where princes live, and where I'd be studying and conducting meetings as vice chair of Cumberland Lodge, next to the resting place of kings and queens in Great Windsor Park. My journey has been marked by both adversity and purpose. Growing up, I learned the value of community, dignity, and perseverance amidst challenge. Navigating spaces where representation and equity were limited taught me to find and use my voice. Each of my crucibles, personal and professional, became a classroom now for me practicing empathy and authenticity. My lived experience is not a limitation. It is the foundation of how I lead, connect, and empower others. And today I say to you, young people who are here, aspiring leaders, leaders who are in the making, leaders who are honing your skills. If I could do it, then so could you. And if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? I had so many hands raise me up the mountain. And now my pledge is to raise others up the mountain and not to draw the ladder up behind me. Rather, I lend a hand and I say to people, confidence comes with taking a risk. I took many risks. I stole so many times in my youth. There were 2 forks in the road. One was stealing, acquisitive crime, to exist, to look after my family, where I became the breadwinner at 16, but where I was earning money from 11, or going down the route of crime. I chose education and ambition because I never, ever wanted to stay poor. But if you look through my life, there's a golden thread of care that comes through from the time I remember myself, which is 5 years old. And so I'll tell you a little story about where I am and how I got here. At Quo Vadis Trust, I lead through inclusion because of all the experiences that molded me. Every voice has a space and a story that I value. And the people I look after, who come with so many needs, including homelessness, being perpetrators and victims of violence, and gang-related interventions and interactions, where people come out of prison on a daily basis to serve in the community and to offer their skills so that they, when they get out of prison, can find a job. People who are dependent on substance and alcohol, people who have a plethora of needs that cause them to be disadvantaged, the people I look after. I believe that my life experiences help me to be compassionate and to be reliable and to lead with love from my heart in an honest manner. Had I not had my early life experiences, I don't know if it would have changed who I am, but that care for people and that love for people came through because I yearned for it when I was young. Now, let me tell you my story. At 5 years old, when I could remember and have an awareness of things around me, I recall my father, who was a care worker, coming out of work at 7 o'clock in the morning in an ambulance because a patient who was in deep hallucinations and regressing in mental health and wellness had attacked him in the night, causing him to be hospitalized. He was in a coma for 18 days, and that changed my life. Because when he came out of that coma, he became confined to bed. And that is when I realized that I had to learn to clean him, both when he was doing a number 2 and a number 1, and I had to help to feed him. I was the youngest of 5 siblings. My mother was the victim of domestic violence from my father, so she'd lost 4 children at stillbirth, and me being the youngest was unplanned for, but I played a very crucial part in looking after my family. From that age of 5, I found myself foraging for food, helping my mother because the breadwinner of the family was no longer able to do it. 2 brothers I have living with severe learning difficulties. One of them is profoundly deaf, and he was beaten very badly at a young age. And I think that is why, because he was different, that's why he became deaf. So imagine living in a little shack on stilts in the ghetto, where as a 5-year-old, you're looking after your father. You have to look after your mother, who wasn't strong enough because of all these challenges that had been, aside from my 2 brothers, now she had my father to contend with. How difficult it was for her and how I had to step up as a carer so quickly. Imagine being ostracized because of who I was and because of my family. I realized at that early age that I had to get and do what I needed to do for my family, but also that I needed to grasp my education because it would have been a way out. I looked at my other friends at school who wore nice uniforms and who were well put out, and I envied them, but some of them were really kind to me. And that is when early hands started helping me up the mountain, because they showed me another side of life. And so at age 9 or 10, people started seeing that I was able to work. So they would offer my mother for me to go out and clean their houses. I'd be down on my knees, scrubbing steps and cleaning bottom houses, as we called it back in the day, and doing things so that I could help to bring some oil and some fish, some flour and some rice to help. Then, as I continued to go to school and to really grasp education whilst helping out at home, I learned the value of compassion. I learned the value of helping to look after my father, who couldn't speak and who was totally dependent on us. But also as a child, I wanted to get out and to play with my friends, and I wanted to get away from this trap that I found myself in. So I was juxtaposed, and it was a really difficult position. But maybe it was because of the nurturing of my mother, who was a kind and gentle person, that it helped me not to be resentful, but to look at my cup as half full rather than half empty. A person who had great influence in my life was my headmaster, because at the age of 16, when my father eventually gave in and passed away, my headmaster said to me, if you do well at your exams, I'll help you with a teaching job. And so he gave me a job as a junior teacher, and I started studying for a certificate in teaching. And I think my focus really sharpened then, because I thought I could do something with my life. What I knew was I didn't want to get married and stay in the country, in the ghetto, where it was commonly known in my neighborhood that we could steal sugar from tea because we're so adept at making the best of our situations. And resilience was just the way. Resilience was just the way. You just had to get up and get. So my headmaster offered me a teaching job. I started teaching. I started opening my horizons, and I realized I didn't want to stay in the ghetto and that I needed to earn money for my two brothers and my mother. And the opportunity came a little later on, when I was able to throw my hat in the ring, when a man from England came to Guyana, and that is where I'm from, Guyana in South America. And he was looking for a wife. And my neighbors said to my mother, why don't you get Ingrid to throw her hat in the ring? Because she could go to England. And I said, absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and I'm going to write this man a letter, and I'm going to tell him why I should be his wife. And I did that, and he chose me. And I came to London. And when I came to London on the 13th of January, 1991, it was cold and dismal. It wasn't sunny. There was no one on the streets. And I was scared. I had diarrhea all the way from Heathrow Airport and vomiting all the way to my house. But when I came home, my then husband, rest his soul now, he wasn't very educated, but he was a man who had a good heart, and he helped me. And he took me to Lewisham College on the second day I was here, because I said, I'm going to college because I want to be a journalist and I want to study. And he said, I will help you. So to cut a long story short, I got lost on the first day because all the houses look the same in London, and he had to come and rescue me. But I enrolled in a counselling course because there was nothing else that I could do. And that counselling course, again, that care element, as you can see that thread coming through. I got onto the counselling course and I met some fabulous people. But at the same time, my late husband became very ill and he couldn't work. So I ended up being his carer again. So I was sending money for my mother and my brothers back in Guyana. I was sending what we call barrels for them. I was trying to study. I was working, and then I got pregnant. And I was looking after my husband. But a very good woman, who is now one of my best friends, helped me with a job at a hostel to work with people who were recovering from alcohol dependence and substance dependence. And that was my first foray into care and support in London. My journalistic ambitions had to be put to the side because I could no longer think of a direction then. It was just getting by. I just had to survive. I had 3 babies under 10 in my first 10 years here. Then my mother died. I had to bring my 2 brothers to London. And my mother-in-law said to me when I had to bring my 2 brothers to London, I'm not living in a house with 2 mad people and 3 little kids. They're your burden. You look after them. And she dropped me. But social services came in and helped me. And they assisted me to get my brothers to a day centre. My neighbors, I had great people helping me up the mountain. And I'm telling this story very quickly, so please forgive me if I'm disjointed, because I want to give you a full flavour. My neighbours were much older than me, and they were very helpful with my kids, helping me to take my kids to school and bring them back, helping me with my brothers when I was at work, and helping me with my husband, and coordinating with social services and carers coming in to support us. And then I found another job, and that was a job working at a day centre with people who were living with multiple disadvantages coming into crisis day centre. And I was chosen by the director then to lead the services, and I quickly worked my way up to director. I don't know how it happened, and I don't know how I did it. People used to call me Superwoman, and now I couldn't do it. I was younger then. I had a lot of energy then. I had a lot of ambition then. But if that wasn't enough, I decided to do a master's in addictions because that's the work I was doing. I successfully got my master's and I moved up the ladder, and I was headhunted to lead Quo Vadis Trust as the head of operations, but I didn't know that it was a hornet's nest I was coming into. But let me regress slightly before I go on. My husband passed away because he could no longer live with his challenges, and I had to put my two brothers to live in supported accommodation because my kids were growing up, and I was now a single mother living in London with 3 sons, and you could imagine how challenging that was. So I had to give them some of my time and attention. I sadly had to put my brothers in care, but they live near to me, so I saw them every weekend, and they came to me some evenings and on holidays and so on. So when I came to Quo Vadis Trust as the head of operations, and as I said, a hornet's nest, the CEO said to me, Ingrid, you have carte blanche to design these services for care and support, and to help the people who put their care in our hands with your compassionate, your loving, and your warm personality, your the leadership skills you've developed while you were working as a support worker and then as a director at the care centre. And he said, I'm taking a chance in you, Ingrid, and I want you to help me. So I came in and I held my head in my hands like this for many, many months, because the senior leadership team saw me as a green person without any experience, as someone who the CEO curry favored, as someone who didn't have the expertise as a head of operations, and they were not very nice to me. I saw that team as feather nesting and not interested in our purpose. We had no values, we had no mission, we had no vision. We were just working and selling ourselves as a mental health provider and specialist when we were not. So I decided that I was going to do something about this. And all through my life, I've always thought of training, learning to do better. And I got myself a good bunch of people, my network. And I believe you have to have 3 sets of people in your life: a conscience, someone who tells you when you're running too fast, you need to stop, someone who tells you you need to look after yourself or you'll burn out, someone who's real and honest with you but comes from a place of love, and then a mentor who's a soft place to land and who hears you and who gets you to run your ideas through them and who is your sounding board, and a coach who looks for opportunities for you. And I found that by chance when I decided that I needed some help to try and rebalance this organization, because the commissioners and the local councils were saying to us, you're not able to do this, you're not doing a good job, we're going to cut your funding. And they were promising to do that. And within 6 months of me being in the job, our funding was cut. So I had to draw on all my resources to try and get a network of people who would support us and support me, to support the CEO with finding a vision, focusing in on that vision, on our purpose, our mission, and bringing some values into the organization. But sadly, things went topsy-turvy and the CEO had to leave. And within that year, we went through 2 CEOs, and then the board stepped in and said, this organization either is going to go down the pan or we need to do something different. I didn't have the confidence to go for CEO because my colleagues were saying, you can't do it. And if you do it, you will be a traitor to us because you don't know what you're doing. You need to get someone else experienced to come in to do this job. You are really a frontline worker. You've got some management experience, but you're not a leader. And they were saying those things to me, and I was feeling that I was an imposter, but the people who were helping me up the mountain held me in those moments when I was uncertain. And so I threw my hat in the ring to be the CEO. I got the job after a big grueling, and then I cried again for months after because I wasn't sure I was the right person for the job. But again, I nurtured my network. I went out there and I looked and I sought and I tried and I found people who helped me. And I believe in reciprocity because they helped me. And now I mentor others and I help others because I give hands at the mountains. And I come from a place of love because I knew that my journey was a hell of a journey. I went through hell and back bareheaded. And so I, through trial and error, worked with my board, and we restructured Quo Vadis Trust, and we got different people in, and we tried to forge a high performance senior leadership team. We made some mistakes, but I can say in 2025 that we have a great team of senior leaders, that we have a great team of leaders in middle management, we have a great team of leaders in the extended leadership team, and we have great people who we nurture from the ground up to be support workers, who then work their way up to be managers. And I bring in young people. Young people are refreshing. They bring life experience. They bring skills that we, us, the older ones, perhaps when we have our blind spots, don't see what they see. And they help us to nurture our services and to support our mission and our end purpose and to live our values. And we train them as apprentices. We bring them in. And we believe in them, even when they're going through difficult times and they don't believe in themselves. And I say to them, if I can do it, you can do it. And we often say, if we can do it and we've gone through the challenges, why can't you? And why not you? And why should it not be you doing it? And so I say to you young people today, resilience is not inherited. It is forged through experience. I learned to transform my setbacks into stepping stones for growth. And I use that as my launch pad to support and to empower those who work with us, those who live with us, so that they could go out into the community to aspire, to achieve, and to fulfill their ambitions. And today, I'm really grateful that you've offered me this opportunity to share my story with you. It was a little bit disjointed, but I wanted to give you snippets from throughout. And I want you to know that I did it. I did it against all odds, and you can do it. You have to believe in yourself. And confidence comes with taking a risk and a step. Look how many risks I took. Look how many steps I made. And I believe that I'm at the top of my game now, but I can't stay on the top of my game without others, without compassion and without love, which I give and which I love to receive. So thank you for allowing me to share with you today.
Well, bravo, Ingrid. That was fabulous. What a wonderful story. I mean, heartbreaking story in some respects. But what you did was absolutely demonstrate the resilience that we asked you to talk about. You've absolutely demonstrated your lived experience and the inclusivity of your approach to leadership. So thank you for sharing what was at times, I think, probably for you quite a difficult tell, but you did it beautifully, and I didn't feel it was disjointed, to be perfectly honest with you, at all. Thank you for sharing it. Very rapidly, would anybody like to ask Ingrid a question? We really don't have a terrible amount of time. I've given Ingrid 5 minutes more than the allotted, only because I decided that she was such box office to listen to. So okay, a lot of people have enjoyed that. Ingrid, you've
there is a question I'd like to ask.
Oh, forgive me. Sorry,
If
go
that's
ahead.
possible. So I know you haven't. We're short for time, and I don't want to elongate it any longer than what it is. What piece of advice would you give your younger self now, obviously for what you've gone through, that would probably be helpful, because a lot of people here are students, and what advice would you give them or give yourself that may have made that difference or make a difference for you?
That's a really great question, Dudley. Many times I fell, and many times I didn't want to get up, and many times I had to be pushed up or I had to be helped up. And it took a long time for me to believe in myself. And what I'd say to my younger self now is, come on, you can do it. The runner stumbles sometimes, and you have your inner strength is yours, and you have to pull on that because it's somewhere in there, and you have to learn to trust your inner strength and believe in yourself. Lots of times I faltered and I had others help me, but now I learn that it was in there all the time. I just needed to find it and believe in it. Thank you, Dudley.
Great answer as well, Ingrid. I think this may not be the last time that we see you at one of our Institute events, to be perfectly honest, if that's all right with you. And there's that old phrase from Henry Ford, isn't there? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. If ever anybody exemplified that sentiment, then it's probably you, Ingrid. So thank you. Jade, may I hand on to you? Would you like to introduce the group activity that we're now going to ask our delegates to perform? Can we just give it up for Ingrid one more time before you do so? Let's give her the hands in the air, I think. That's lovely. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, Jade, would you like to introduce what we're going to ask our delegates to do next, please?
Yes, I am unmuted, aren't I? I can't see my...
Good.
There we go. I can see my tools now. A slight delay on my end. Hello, everyone. I'm Jade Maloney. I'm the operations manager here at the Institute. Before we take a short break, before we hear from Kenny, we've got one activity for you, reflecting on the experiences of Ingrid and also taken from the masterclass from Dudley that started us off today. This is a Slido activity. There is a link in your chat box. I can send that now to you. Otherwise, you can scan the QR on your screen with a mobile device, or you can go to slido.com and type in that number 1762510. And I've just seen that it's not linked at the moment, so I'll just grab another link for us in the chat box, try and make it as accessible as possible. What we'd like you to do is think of words that come to mind when you think of what it means to have quality in leadership roles. At least 3 responses, and what will happen, or by magic, will be that we can create a word cloud that you can take away. If we've got similar answers to each other, that word will be bigger on screen, and if we've got more bespoke answers, they'll appear smaller. And what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot of that word cloud, and you can have it to take away with you at the end of today's session. If for any reason you can't access Slido, if you want to use the chat box, and my fabulous colleague Charlotte Joseph will type in the answers for you. Lovely. So coming up on the screen, we've got in bold and big, inclusive, compassionate. I can see we've got visionary, diverse, inspirational, kindness, trust, authenticity, caring, graciousness, respect. So I'll give us a couple of minutes and then we'll have a short break. Okay, fabulous, some more coming through. So we've got self-leader, fair, a great listener, trusting, compassionate stands out the most so far. Another minute or two. I'll read out a couple more. Emotionally intelligent, facilitator, laissez-faire, considerate, love, accessible, empathetic. Corner. Resilient, open and honest, visionary. Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for your contributions. The poll will remain active if you think of any more that you'd like to add to this. This will be a takeaway image that you can have at the end of today's session. But as you can see from all of those words that we've contributed, compassionate stands out the most. We do some training around compassionate leadership if you've not seen that. Really encourage you in today's 2020s going into the 2030s now that we do need to be compassionate as leaders. And Sue, did you want to come on? I know we've got my colleague Sue Jones on the call. Did you want to come on and speak about your compassionate leadership course, Sue, before we have our break? That'd be fabulous if you could.
Yes, absolutely. So there's two things actually. I'm just currently putting together the Aspiring Leaders short course masterclass, which hopefully will be available for you to complete in a couple of weeks, maybe hopefully next week, we never know, but it's in the final stages. And I'm also launching a short course masterclass on compassionate leadership and the compassionate leadership. And I'm absolutely with you. You know, with the compassion is definitely something where health and social care needs to be at. It's a leadership style that we know works. It is effective. We know it's effective. But what our short course masterclass will do will actually give you the practical skills to be able to implement. And I think that's the bit that's missing at the moment. You've just spoken beautifully, you know, both Dudley and Ingrid, and really given us some that real golden nuggets of actually how you actually implement that. And that will certainly, our compassionate leadership will build on that as well.